"Jennifer, we're downsizing, and you're the first to go," Samantha announced with a smirk that churned my stomach, effective immediately. The fluorescent lights in the conference room seemed to hum louder, the words hanging in the air like a toxic cloud. I sat there, stunned, trying to process what had just happened, while my colleagues around the table studiously avoided my gaze. After 14 years of devoted service to Westbrook Dynamics, this was my reward. My name is Jennifer Calloway. I'm 46, and until this morning, I was the senior account manager at Westbrook Dynamics in Charlotte, North Carolina. For 14 years, I'd poured my heart and soul into this company, overseeing our largest corporate accounts and forging relationships that went beyond mere business transactions. I wasn't the showiest employee. I steered clear of office politics and never buttered up management, but I was dependable, consistent, and earned the deep respect of those who truly mattered, our clients. When Samantha Kerr took over as our new department head 6 months ago, I sensed trouble brewing. She was one of those people who mistook loudness for effectiveness, believing that disruption automatically meant improvement. During her first week, she made it clear she intended to revolutionize our client relations approach. She scheduled needless meetings, implemented tracking systems nobody wanted, and constantly questioned methods that had worked flawlessly for years. "I think we need to inject some fresh energy into this department," she declared during one of her endless staff meetings. "Some of these account relationships have gotten a little too comfortable, a little too personal. We need to maintain professional distance." I remember thinking how wrong she was, but I bit my tongue. In my experience, business relationships built on genuine trust and personal connection were the strongest foundation a company could have. But Samantha saw things differently. She viewed my long-standing relationships with our key clients as a threat to her authority, not an asset to the company. She didn't grasp that when David Chen from Solar Tech Industries called me directly instead of going through the main switchboard. It wasn't overstepping boundaries. It was the result of 14 years of mutual respect and successful collaboration. Sitting in that cold conference room, watching Samantha's smug expression, I realized this moment had been inevitable from the day she walked through the doors. She'd been searching for a reason to get rid of me, and the convenient excuse of company downsizing had finally given her the ammunition she needed. What she didn't realize was that she had just made the biggest blunder of her professional career. Looking back, I should have spotted the warning signs sooner. The way Samantha would interrupt my client calls, insisting on joining conversations that had been fine without management oversight for years. The way she scrutinized every expense report, questioning lunch meetings that had been standard practice since before she was out of college. The way she'd make snide remarks about old-school approaches during team meetings, always looking directly at me when she said it. My relationship with Westbrook Dynamics hadn't always been this complicated. When I started 14 years ago, fresh out of a messy divorce and desperate for stability for my 2 young children, the company felt like a lifeline. My previous boss, Robert Harrison, had taken a chance on me despite my limited experience in account management. "Jennifer," he'd told me during my interview, "I can teach someone the technical aspects of this job, but I can't teach genuine care for people. You have that quality, and that's what makes great account managers." He was right. Over the years, I'd developed client relationships that went far beyond the typical vendor-customer dynamic. When Thomas Reed from Grandstone Manufacturing was going through his father's illness, I was the one who helped coordinate delivery schedules around his family obligations. When Patricia Vance from Emerald Marketing launched her new division, I worked overtime to ensure her project timeline was met, even sacrificing my own weekend plans. When Michael Torres from Nexus Development celebrated his daughter's graduation, I was the one who remembered to ask about it during our quarterly review meeting. These weren't just business relationships. They were human connections built on years of trust, reliability, and genuine concern for each other's success. My clients didn't just work with Westbrook Dynamics because of our competitive pricing or service offerings. They worked with us because they knew that when they called, they'd get someone who understood their business, remembered their challenges, and cared about their outcomes. But Samantha saw all of this as unprofessional. During one particularly uncomfortable meeting 3 weeks ago, she pulled me aside and said, "Jennifer, I need you to understand that our clients are paying for a service, not a friendship. I think you've gotten a little too emotionally invested in these relationships." I'd bitten my tongue then, but I should have known that was her way of building a case against me. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Samantha criticized my emotional investment, our department consistently outperformed every other division in the company. Our client retention rate was 94%. Our average contract value had increased by 30% over the past 3 years. And our customer satisfaction scores were consistently the highest in the industry. But none of that seemed to matter to someone more interested in asserting her authority than understanding what actually made the business successful. The final nail in my coffin came 2 weeks before that fateful Monday meeting, during what should have been a routine client review. Patricia Vance from Emerald Marketing had called me directly, as she always did, to discuss some project timeline concerns. It was a simple conversation, the kind I'd handled hundreds of times before. But this time, Samantha insisted on joining the call. "Patricia, this is Samantha Kerr, Jennifer's supervisor," she'd interrupted within the first 5 minutes. "I wanted to personally ensure that all of your concerns are being addressed at the appropriate management level." The tone she used was condescending, both to Patricia and to me. I watched helplessly as the conversation grew increasingly tense, with Patricia clearly uncomfortable with Samantha's aggressive approach to what should have been a collaborative discussion. After we hung up, Patricia sent me a private email I'll never forget. "Jennifer, I've been working with you for 8 years, and I've never had to deal with someone speaking to me like I'm a problem to be solved, rather than a partner to be supported. Is this the new direction for Westbrook Dynamics? Because if it is, we need to have some serious conversations about our future together." I forwarded that email to Samantha, thinking it might help her understand the damage her approach was causing. Instead, she called me into her office and accused me of undermining her authority and encouraging client complaints. That's when I realized that no matter how professionally I handled the situation, no matter how much I tried to work within her new system, she had already decided I was the problem. The downsizing announcement, when it finally came, felt almost like a relief. Not because I wanted to. Levy loved my job and was proud of what I'd built here, but because the uncertainty was finally over. Samantha had been looking for a reason to get rid of me, and she had finally found her excuse. "We need to streamline our operations and eliminate redundancies," she explained to the room full of shocked faces. "Jennifer's position, while valuable in the past, doesn't align with our new strategic direction." The way she said it, with that satisfied smile, made it clear this wasn't about company efficiency. This was personal. As I packed my belongings that afternoon, my colleagues kept stopping by my desk to express their disbelief and anger. "This is insane." My teammate David whispered, "You're the backbone of this department. How can they think this is a good idea?" But I just smiled and thanked him for his support. I learned long ago that burning bridges rarely led anywhere productive. What Samantha didn't know, what she couldn't have known because she had never taken the time to understand the foundation of our business, was that she had just triggered a chain reaction that would reshape the entire company. My relationships with our clients weren't just professional courtesies. They were the invisible threads that held our most valuable partnerships together. I spent Monday evening at home, sitting on my porch with a glass of wine, watching the sunset paint the Charlotte skyline in shades of orange and pink. For the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of peace. The constant tension of walking on eggshells around Samantha was gone, replaced by an odd combination of uncertainty and liberation. My phone had been buzzing all afternoon with messages from former colleagues expressing their outrage. But I'd turned it off around dinner time. I needed space to think. By Tuesday morning, my phone was exploding with notifications. I had 17 missed calls, 43 text messages, and 67 emails. My first thought was that something had happened to one of my children, so I quickly scrolled through the messages with growing confusion. They weren't personal emergencies. They were business calls from my former clients. The first voicemail was from Thomas Reed at Grandstone Manufacturing, and his voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "Jennifer, I just heard what happened. This is absolutely unacceptable. I've been trying to reach someone at Westbrook since yesterday afternoon, and nobody seems to know anything about our upcoming project deadlines. I need to speak with you immediately about our contract." The second message was from Patricia Vance at Emerald Marketing, and she sounded even more upset. "Jennifer, they can't just eliminate you without consulting their major clients. We have 3 active projects with deadlines next month, and you're the only person who understands the specifications. I've left 4 messages for your replacement, and apparently, they haven't assigned one yet. This is a disaster." As I continued listening to the voicemails, a pattern emerged. Every single one of my major clients had called, not just to express sympathy for my situation, but to voice serious concerns about the continuity of their projects. David Chen from SolarTech Industries was particularly direct. Jennifer, I don't know what kind of game Westbrook is playing, but if they think they can just remove the one person who actually understands our business and expect us to start over with someone new, they're out of their minds. Call me back. We need to talk. I made myself a cup of coffee and started returning calls. The conversations that followed were both heartwarming and professionally explosive. Every client expressed genuine personal concern for my well-being, but more importantly, they all shared the same sentiment. They had been working with Jennifer Calloway, not just Westbrook Dynamics, and my sudden removal felt like a betrayal of their business relationship. Jennifer, Patricia said when I called her back, I want you to understand something. When we signed our contract with Westbrook 3 years ago, it was because of you. Yes, your company had competitive pricing, but what sealed the deal was knowing that we'd have someone who actually cared about our success. If you're not there anymore, then, honestly, I'm not sure why we should be either. Michael Torres from Nexus Development was even more blunt. I've been in this industry for 25 years, he told me. I've worked with dozens of vendors, and most of them see us as just another account number. You've always treated us like a partner. That's not something you can just replace with whoever they pull from their staff roster. By noon on Tuesday, I had spoken with all 5 of my major clients, and the message was unanimous. They wanted me to know that their loyalty had been to me personally, not just to the company I worked for. Several of them asked if I was planning to land somewhere else soon because they would be very interested in continuing our business relationship in whatever form that might take. That's when I realized that Samantha had made a catastrophic miscalculation. She had assumed that client relationships were interchangeable, that the value I brought to the company was easily replaceable with someone else, who could read from the same scripts and follow the same procedures. She didn't understand that business relationships, particularly in our industry, were built on trust that took years to develop and could be destroyed in an instant. Wednesday morning brought the first wave of formal consequences. I was having breakfast when my phone rang with a call from Patricia Vance, but this time her tone was purely business. Jennifer, I wanted to let you know that I'm sending a formal letter to Westbrook Dynamics this morning requesting an immediate meeting to discuss the future of our contract. After yesterday's conversation, my team and I spent the evening reviewing our agreement, and we discovered that there's a clause allowing us to terminate for cause if there are material changes to the service team without our consent. I nearly choked on my coffee. Patricia, I don't want you to make any decisions that might hurt your business just because of what happened to me. This isn't about loyalty. Jennifer, though I appreciate everything you've done for us over the years, this is about protecting our business interests. We have critical projects launching next quarter, and the institutional knowledge you've built about our operations isn't something that can be transferred in a training session. If Westbrook wants to maintain our partnership, they need to figure out how to get you back involved, whether that's reversing their decision or arranging some kind of consulting agreement. An hour later, David Chen called with similar news. Jennifer, I'm formally requesting a contract review meeting with Westbrook's senior management. If they can't provide adequate assurance that our project timelines and quality standards will be maintained without you, then Solar will need to explore other options. I've already had my team reach out to 3 of your competitors for preliminary discussions. By Thursday, the situation had escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. Thomas Reed from Grandstone Manufacturing didn't just request a meeting, he sent a formal notice of contract termination effective in 30 days unless Westbrook could restore the service team configuration that was in place when this agreement was originally executed. His letter was copied to Westbrook's chief executive officer, their general counsel, and the entire board of directors. Michael Torres took a different approach. Instead of threatening termination, he suspended all current projects pending a comprehensive review of service capabilities and personnel changes. This effectively froze over $2 million in active contracts until Westbrook could provide guarantees about project continuity. The most devastating blow came from Patricia Vance on Friday. She didn't just threaten to leave, she actually did it. Her termination letter was short and professional, due to material changes in account management, personnel without client consultation, Emerald Marketing is exercising its right to terminate this agreement effective immediately. We will be transitioning our business to a vendor who can provide the level of personalized service and institutional knowledge that our projects require. That same day, I received a call from someone I hadn't expected to hear from, Robert Harrison, my former boss, who had retired 3 years earlier. "Jennifer," he said, "I hope you don't mind, but Patricia Vance called me this morning. She wanted my perspective on the situation at Westbrook, and she also wanted to know if I had any for alternative vendors." He paused for a moment before continuing. "I told her that the best vendor I could recommend was you if you were interested in starting your own consulting practice." The idea hadn't occurred to me before, but as Robert explained it, the concept made perfect sense. You have the relationships, you have the expertise, and you have the trust. All you need is the business structure. Patricia indicated that if you were to start your own firm, Emerald Marketing would be very interested in becoming your first client. By the end of that week, I had received similar inquiries from 3 other former clients. What had started as a termination was rapidly becoming the foundation for something entirely new. Monday morning of the following week, I decided to drive past the Westbrook Dynamics building on my way to meet with a business attorney. I wasn't being vindictive. I genuinely wanted to see how the company was handling the crisis that had been building over the past week. What I saw in the parking lot told me everything I needed to know. Samantha's car was there at 7:30 in the morning, along with vehicles belonging to 3 members of the senior management team. Emergency meetings were clearly in session. Later that day, my former colleague David called me with an update that was both shocking and completely predictable. "Jennifer, you need to know what happened this morning." Samantha called an all-hands meeting at 8 a.m., and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Apparently, the executive team spent the entire weekend in crisis management mode. According to David, the scope of the client relations disaster was even worse than I had realized. In addition to the 3 major accounts that had already terminated or suspended their contracts, 2 other significant clients had requested meetings to reevaluate their vendor relationships. The company was facing the potential loss of nearly 60% of their major account revenue, all within a span of 2 weeks. The best part, David continued, was when Samantha tried to blame the situation on your unprofessional relationship boundaries with clients. She actually suggested that you had somehow manipulated these companies into retaliating against Westbrook. The executive team didn't buy it for a second. Chief Executive Officer William Bradford had apparently asked some very pointed questions about how the department head could have been unaware of the extent to which major client relationships were tied to individual personnel. When Samantha couldn't provide satisfactory answers, he asked for her resignation, effective immediately. "Jennifer," David said, "Bradford specifically asked me to get your contact information. He wants to schedule a meeting to discuss options for bringing you back, possibly with a significant promotion and salary increase." I thanked David for the information, but I had to smile at the irony. 2 weeks ago, Samantha had been so confident that I was expendable. Now the entire executive team was scrambling to undo the damage her decision had caused, but the truth was, it was too late for Westbrook Dynamics. Not because I was vindictive, but because the business landscape had already shifted. That afternoon, I met with Patricia Vance and Michael Torres to finalize the terms of my new consulting firm, Callaway Client Relations. Patricia had agreed to provide startup capital in exchange for guaranteed priority service, and Michael had offered to serve as a reference for other potential clients. Within 3 days, I had signed agreements with 4 former Westbrook clients, with 2 more companies expressing serious interest. The real validation came on Thursday when I received a call from David Chen. "Jennifer, I wanted you to know that SolarTech has decided to terminate our contract with Westbrook effective next month. But more importantly, I wanted to ask if you'd be interested in a very different kind of business arrangement." What David proposed was beyond anything I had imagined. SolarTech was expanding their operations and needed someone to manage relationships with multiple vendor partners. Instead of just hiring me as a consultant, they wanted to bring me on as their vice president of vendor relations, with a salary that was nearly double what I had been making at Westbrook. "The position is yours if you want it," David said. "But I wanted to run it by you first because I know you've got your own consulting firm getting started." For the first time since this whole ordeal began, I found myself facing a choice between 2 excellent options, rather than scrambling to recover from someone else's poor decision. Tuesday morning, exactly 2 weeks after Samantha had gleefully announced my termination, I made my decision. I called David Chen and accepted the position at Solar Industries with one condition. I wanted to maintain my consulting firm for select clients on weekends and evenings. He agreed immediately, understanding that my outside relationships would only strengthen my ability to serve SolarTech's vendor management needs. The news spread quickly through Charlotte's business community. By Thursday, I had received congratulatory calls from 6 different industry contacts, including 2 executives from companies that had never worked with Westbrook Dynamics. Word was getting out that the clients hadn't just left Westbrook, they had followed me to something better. Friday afternoon brought the most satisfying moment of this entire experience. William Bradford from Westbrook Dynamics called me personally to make one final attempt at bringing me back. His offer was generous: department head position, 40% salary increase, guaranteed autonomy, and a formal apology from the board of directors. But it was too late. Mr. Bradford, I told him, I appreciate the offer, but I've already accepted a position that offers me both financial growth and professional respect. More importantly, I've learned that my value isn't dependent on any single company's recognition of it. The conversation was cordial but brief. There was no point in dwelling on what might have been when the future was already so clearly mapped out ahead of me. That weekend, I received the final piece of news that completed this entire saga. David from my old department called to let me know that Westbrook Dynamics had announced they were closing the Charlotte office and consolidating operations with their facility in Atlanta. The loss of major clients had made the local operation financially unsustainable. Jennifer, he said, I hope you know that everyone here understands what really happened. Samantha destroyed in 2 weeks what took you 14 years to build. I felt no satisfaction in Westbrook's downfall, only a quiet sense of vindication that my contributions had been valuable, even if one person had been too blind to see it. 6 months later, I was settling into my new office at SolarTech Industries, looking out at the Charlotte skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. My title was Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, and my responsibilities had grown far beyond what I had originally been hired to. David Chen had been right when he predicted that my relationship-building skills would be valuable in multiple areas of their business. Callaway client relations had also flourished beyond my expectations. What started as a way to maintain relationships with 4 former clients had expanded into a boutique consulting firm specializing in B2B relationship management. I was working with 12 companies now, and had turned down 6 others because I didn't want to compromise the quality of service by growing too quickly. The most unexpected development came when Patricia Vance recommended me to speak at the Regional Business Leadership Conference about the importance of personal relationships in professional settings. The presentation went so well that I was invited to write an article for Business Excellence magazine about the hidden value of authentic client relationships. 2 weeks ago, I received a LinkedIn message from someone I hadn't heard from in months, Samantha Kerr. She had found a new position with a smaller firm in Raleigh and wanted to congratulate me on my success and clear the air about any past misunderstandings. I read the message twice before deleting it without responding. Some bridges, once burned, weren't worth rebuilding. Yesterday, I had lunch with Robert Harrison, my former boss, who had first encouraged me to value relationship building over transaction-focused thinking. Jennifer, he said over dessert, I've been watching your career progression with great pride. You've proven that doing the right thing, even when it's not appreciated, eventually leads to recognition from people who matter. Looking back on everything that happened, I realized he was absolutely right. As I sat in my new office, watching the bustling activity of a company that valued what I brought to the table, I understood that Samantha's cruel grin that Monday morning had actually been a gift in disguise. Sometimes the best revenge isn't plotting someone's downfall, it's building something so successful that their betrayal becomes irrelevant to your happiness.